up, you guys? This is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and today on the Snapshot, we're going to be taking a look at the best pistols to dual wield with. Now, clearly, if you guys haven't been watching the channel recently, the majority of this video was actually recorded right before the Zakti came out. Like, literally, I was about to publish that video, and then the Zakti dropped, and I was like, well, shit, I gotta go ahead and do this. So I figured I would go ahead and cut in some footage of the Zakti in work, because it is potentially the best dual-wielding pistol out there. Now, everything else on the remainder of this list has their own merits just on their own, but the Zakti combined with the Glaive Prime, like, it literally works magic. So let's go ahead and take a look at that now. Now, if you guys are interested in the build in this video, I actually have that in something separate, but as you can see, whether it's corrosive or whether it's viral, this thing absolutely wrecks. All you have to make sure that you do is hit these guys with the glaive as soon as the stagger pops up. Let's go ahead and do that one more time so you guys can get a good visual on it. I know a lot of people were kind of pointing out the fact that the new pause AI feature on this thing, on the new version of the simulacrum, actually puts them in a state of unalertedness. So what I went ahead and did was put them on full alert, but I made myself invincible. So that's a thing that works. And as you can see right here, the synergy still works absolutely amazingly. Now, the rest of the weapons that you're going to end up seeing on this list are pretty much standalone. They're just great pistols on their own without actually having to use the glaive in synergy. But I did say the best dual-wielding pistol, and technically, because of the fact that we've got the Zakti now that opens enemies up to finishers and makes them weak to the stealth melee multiplier, the glaive works amazingly with that, especially because of the fact that it's got that built-in guaranteed slash damage on a throw. And because you can power throw it, it just pretty much supercharges its ability to whittle down armored targets. So this currently is my favorite dual wield pistol in game. However, if you want to check out something a little bit different, or maybe don't have access to the Zakti yet because it's still researching, or maybe your clan's just, you know, not on top of it, you can go ahead and take a look at the rest of the things I have to offer on this list. So I don't know about the rest of you, but ever since dual wielding has been out, to be honest with you, I've not like seriously picked up a primary weapon. I've like picked it up for a little bit, then swapped over into dual wielding. It's one of those features that I really did not think I really gave a shit about when they were like mentioning it. I was like, really, DE, you're wasting your time on this? But now that it's out, it's kind of like one of my favorite things ever. So I was asked on stream yesterday, because I've just been dual wielding so much, what I thought were the best pistols to dual wield with. So I figured I would go ahead and do a quick run through with you. Now, this is the Vaykor Prime. You guys have seen this like a million, bajillion, gazillion times before. So I don't really want to jump into it too much, but I figured, you know, I would just kind of give you a little bit of a taste of how this thing works and why it is such an absolute beast. And oh my god, with the condition overload, with the throwing build that I showed you guys yesterday on my glaive, it just makes such quick work of it. It's absolutely insane. I'm gonna swap over to the LMAO Prime now, because I know that nobody else can get it and all that kind of stuff, but you know, people ask what my build is, and you know, I want to make sure that people know. And yes, I have a crazy ribbon for it too that was gifted to me from a viewer. So we're just kind of like working through these two real fast to show you their performance, because they're absolutely crazy, and these are my favorite of the favorites. But you know, these ones aren't going to be the ones that we focus on today. I actually want to go ahead and show you some that you can attain, whether you have to pick it up through the market, or whether you are actually able to build it just outright. Now, don't hate me for this very first one, but right under the Vaykor Prime and the LMAO Prime is the Cysis Prime. I do know that it's vaulted, however, you can go into the market to go ahead and pick up its parts. You know, like I was telling you earlier, you gotta go ahead and farm the vaulted items so that you can sell the vaulted items to get other vaulted items for plat. So that way it kind of like evens it out. You can get your hands on things like this. Now, the Cysis Prime, previous to the Chains of Hero update, it did have a little bit of a buff from its original state, so it was actually kind of good then. And then it got another buff in the Chains of Hero, and it was just like insanity. We're like, what is going on with our lives? And this thing is an absolute beast. Now, as you can see, I do have an amazing, amazing ribbon for it, and that's because it has a strong ribbon disposition, which is quite nice. But I tossed on hydraulic crosshairs in its place, just so that you guys can kind of get a feeling for how it is without a ribbon, you know, because not everybody's going to be playing with the ribbon. Now, this weapon I was actually a big fan of originally. If I'm going to be honest with you, as y'all know, y'all know I'm a big fan of burst fire weapons, and this thing is a burst fire pistol. It's got great sound design. Look at him like twitching. This is one of my favorite parts. But I'm actually a massive fan of the model and its reload animation. What is that? I loved it. I loved the whole like caged front of it. I thought it was an absolutely gorgeous weapon, and I'm glad to see that they actually did something with it, because there's a lot of times that we get pretty weapons, like, let's be real, the Stradivar. The Stradivar is what I'm talking about here. We get pretty weapons and we're like, oh, that's a pretty weapon and I really want to be able to use it. But unfortunately, it just does not perform the way that you would want it to perform. Let's just, a little power throw action. Boop, and dead. So yeah, the Cysis is absolutely amazing, and because of that Riven disposition, it is going to be an absolute beast. So definitely check it out in the market. It's like pistol goals. If you can't get yourself a Euphona Prime with the perfect Riven, because Euphona Prime has a weaker disposition than the Cysis Prime, but the Cysis Prime, amazing Riven disposition and amazing stats, so definitely go ahead and check this one out because this one's a monster. Moving along, we've got the Pandero. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with y'all, I do not know why, but I don't feel like I hear people talking about this weapon as much as they probably should be. I'm hearing a lot of things about the Piranha, I hear things about the Brack, weird bullshit things like the Colstar that just get you killed and are just evil creatures. But the Pandero is actually really, really powerful, and it's kind of like fan the hammer shot, it's charge shot as they like to call it. Is pretty fucking, it's a fun mechanic. It's not something that I use all too often, but legitimately, I feel like it's something that it's nice to be able to unload into a group of enemies that way. Now, the big thing about this is it's got a lot of slash damage, and on top of that, it can apply status really well. Oh, see, look at that, it just kind of melts the dude. And I just don't feel like there's as much fanfare about this as it probably should have. Like, I mean, I guess it's kind of basic, you know, it's just like a, it's got some slashing, it's got some viral, it's got a good chunk of status, you know, it's got a good chunk of crit to it. I feel like it's a great overall weapon, but I don't know, it's just one of those ones that I'm like, how do y'all not love this? How do y'all not love this as much as I love this? Because legitimately, I think it is a bit of a powerhouse. I don't know, maybe it's because it was released with kind of like Octavia, and Octavia's bundle was kind of just like, oh, it's a fun thing. Because I don't really hear people talking about the Tenora as much either. Or maybe just people not talking about weapons. I don't know. I just put my name on this one. This one is a great weapon to try out. So if you haven't already tried it out, you can get this one, and this one's not vaulted. It's available. You can get it. Next up, we've got a little bit of a 2-for-1. As you can see, I've got the Vaykor Marelok loaded up, but kind of like in tandem with the Vaykor Marelok, I'm putting the Lex Prime. Now, the reason you're not seeing me use the Lex Prime is because I've actually burned it to create my Lex Prime, because, you know, all of us partners are not just handed shit sometimes. Sometimes you actually gotta farm up the blueprints, and sometimes you gotta build shit your own goddamn selves. So don't think that we have everything handed to us on a silver platter. But yeah, no, I feel like they perform very similarly. Now, the Vaykor has a base of, I think it's either 30 or 35 status, while the Lex has a base of 25. The Vaykor Marelok has a base of like 20% crit, while the Lex has a base of 25. So it's kind of like, they're kind of like playing in the same area. And one of the big things that I do kind of want to note about the both of them is one of my, I don't want to say minuses, but one of the things that you have to keep in mind with them is that if you're going to have focus fire on a single target, like we're doing here with our little billies, is that they do have a rhythm to the way that they shoot. So as you can see here, with the Vaykor Marelok, you kind of have to get into the rhythm in order to land consistent headshots, and that's one of the biggest, I don't want to say downsides, but it's one of the biggest things that you do need to be cognizant of. I'm just going to let that last tick go through, because, you know, when you have all that status, you have the luxury of not wasting ammo on them. But yeah, so that's kind of one of the things, is kind of like you have to get within that rhythm. With the Vaykor Marelok, it's a little bit of recoil and then kind of like the shoot animation that you have to kind of like gauge against. With the Lex, it's more of recoil, because it's got that recoil is popping. And as you can see there, I don't know if you kind of check that out, but one of the things is when you shoot back to back, it almost pushes the cursor up a little bit higher. So what ends up happening is it makes for less accurate shots, and because of the fact that this is a semi-automatic, every shot kind of counts. When you have a full automatic, it's not so intense, because of the fact that you've got bullets coming out every few seconds. But once you get your rhythm going, as you can see there, once you've got your rhythm going, you can deal a lot of damage very, very quickly. And it's all about getting that rhythm with both the Lex Prime and the Vaykor Marelok. Now, the Vaykor Marelok is available through the Steel Meridian, and I believe the Lex might have vaulted relics attached to it. But you look, Vaykor Marelok, you can pick it up in the market. I'm in the trade chat. So, God, I feel like I'm just giving you guys all of the weapons you can have. I'm sorry. Alrighty, so this next one, you cannot blame me if you do not have. I put out a video on it like last week with all the digital pass stuff for TennoCon. I was like, you need to pick this up, and I've always talked up this weapon. This weapon has been on my favorites list for the longest time. So you've had your opportunities. You cannot give me shit for not having this one. Alright? This is a you thing, not a me thing. Now, I do want to point out here, I do have an awesome ribbon for it. It's got a neutral disposition, so you can get something amazing like damage and punch through and fire rate. But I've actually substituted Scorch in there for a little bit more status. Now, usually I don't like putting Blast on weapons. Just, honestly, I don't like the knockdown effect. I like being able to get headshots. You know, you gotta get your head, right? You gotta get your head nice and good. And it's really hard to do that if they're on the floor. Especially if they're face down on the floor. So Blast is not my favorite, but I figured, you know, just for demonstration purposes, I would go ahead and use this on Hero. As you can see here too, I'm having to kind of control the recoil because it does have a bit of recoil attached to it. So let's go ahead and throw a little glaive right in his face and just call it a day. Because of the fact that we've got condition overload and this thing has a good consistent ability to deliver all of those status things. It pairs quite well with the throwing build that I showed off the other day. But it's still pretty good as a standalone too. The only thing that kind of sucks about this is it does now have a what is it called? A fall off. Damage fall off added to it, which hurts, but it did get a base damage increase, so it's kind of like offsetting it just a little bit. But it is definitely a powerhouse even without a ribbon. With the ribbons on, oh my god, it just makes the world a better place. It just makes me so incredibly happy. And the fact that it has a base damage of radiation, you can mix it with corrosive, and then the cool thing that you get, oh, did I just blow myself up? I did. But it's okay. It's okay. I lived, he died. That's the main thing I want you to take away from this. Now I'm gonna go sit on this health pack over here and not feel so bad. But yeah, because of the fact that it's got base radiation, you can toss corrosive on it, and you can have something that attacks both ferrite armor and alloy armor. So you should be good on both ends, and you should have this already. Alright? You should have this already. Don't blame me. Now I feel like there's gonna be some people in the comments that are gonna start feeling away because yes, the Acrid is the last weapon on my list. I had to have a cutoff somewhere. Trust me, I tried out the Cysis, I tried out the Piranha, I tried out the Brack, I tried out all of those things, and I had to like make a clear definitive line where I was like, no, this is where it stops. And to me, the Acrid is kind of like where the best stops. Like, this is great. It's a fantastic weapon, but it's like kind of like skirting the edge of like, it's great, but you know. I also have a ribbon for it. Now, the ribbon for it is actually not something that I'm currently using in the build for it. I want to actually play around and see if I can get a better roll for it because it does have a very strong ribbon disposition. You probably can't even see that ribbon, so I'm going to go ahead and move it here. It's an alright ribbon. I feel like I could do a little bit better with it, so I'm kind of like, alright, we'll see what we can do. But that's the thing about the Acrid, is I literally had to like go through my list and I'm like, alright, a lot of these are usable, but I wouldn't say that they're the best. And when we're saying that a weapon is really, really good, like, you know, that it's the best of the bunch, you kind of have to, you know, draw your line somewhere. And as you can see, the Acrid is absolutely amazing. You just have to wait for the ticks, and that's really all it is you kind of got to wait for the ticks just a little bit for it to do the work. Plus, you do get the sequence effect, which restores your shields, and you get a little radiation proc that goes off with them too. So it's a really, really nice mix of things all in one. It'll keep you safe as long as you're killing enemies with it, and it works with condition overload quite well. And as you can see right here, the corrosive helps you. Oh, it's just nasty. It's just nasty when it gets all started and it does all the magic and whatnot. It's really, really good. And and it's where I kind of want to like end it. Now I do want to make notes because I was thinking of doing some additional gameplay at the end of this, and I was like, I really don't feel like it. But there are weapons that are great in the star chart, like the Brack and the Piranha, but both of those don't really have strong enough supplemental stats to go with it. Like the Piranha's got 20% crit and I believe like 10% status. The Piranha's fantastic, it's got a lot of slash to it, but it's got 10% status. We want the slash procs, not necessarily the slash damage that like goes with it. And then the Brack on the other end of the spectrum has a ton of upfront damage, but it's only got 15% crit and 15% status, so its supplementals don't really do much help for it. Those are both amazing weapons. The Nell is also really nice, but I found that in like consistent gameplay, like as I'm like running around, it's really hard to consistently chain headshots over and over again. It's a little bit better if you're on something like a mobile defense tile, or like a survival tile where you can kind of hunker down a little bit. But personally, the Nell was great and it did a lot of damage, but usability, it hurt just a little bit. Now, clearly, I'm a big fan of things like the Atmos and some of the other, other fun weapons, but when it comes down to like, what is the most usable and what is the best that goes along with dual wielding, these are definitely my picks. Now, if y'all disagree, you can leave that in the comment section below, but be nice. And I'm gonna leave it here. Let me know, what are your thoughts? Are any of these weapons kind of like you're surprised about, or are any of them like fallen off of your list and you're like, oh, I need to go ahead and like revisit that because it's pretty fucking awesome now. But that's where I'm gonna leave it. So as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.